When people hear the name Bernard Arnault, most don't even blink. But when you say Louis Vuitton, Dior, or Moet and Chandon, suddenly everyone pays attention. That's the genius of Arnault, the man behind the world's most powerful luxury empire. With a net worth north of $200 billion, Arnault has quietly become the richest man in Europe, and at times, the richest man on the planet. He's not a celebrity CEO like Elon Musk or a tech genius like Bill Gates. He's something different, a luxury kingpin. He doesn't just own a company, he owns desire. Every Louis Vuitton handbag, every Dom Perignon bottle, every Dior gown, they all trace back to him. But here's the controversial truth. Arnault's empire isn't just about champagne and handbags. Behind the glamour are secrets, hidden strategies, ruthless acquisitions, and a personal lifestyle so opulent it makes Hollywood look broke. Today, we're diving into the luxury secrets of Bernard Arnault, the man who owns Louis Vuitton. Bernard Arnault didn't stumble into luxury. He engineered it like a takeover artist. Back in the 1980s, Arnault was just another French businessman, but he spotted something others missed. Luxury wasn't just about products, it was about perception. He understood that if you could control the brands people associated with wealth, you could control wealth itself. His first big move came in 1984 when he acquired the struggling textile company Boussac, which owned Christian Dior. Most investors thought Dior was finished. Arnault saw treasure in the wreckage. He cut everything else, kept Dior, and used it as his launchpad. Then came the masterstroke, LVMH. Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy merged in 1987, and Arnault swooped in, buying shares, outmaneuvering rivals, and eventually seizing control. It wasn't glamorous, it was ruthless. Once inside, he transformed LVMH into a machine. Today, the conglomerate owns more than 75 brands: Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, Givenchy, Bulgari, Dom Perignon, Sephora, Tag Heuer, Hennessy, Tiffany & Company, and many more. Here's the secret. Arnault doesn't run a fashion house. He runs a luxury monopoly. While other billionaires build cars or rockets, Arnault builds dreams. He uses scarcity to create desire. Limited editions, waiting lists, celebrities flaunting bags worth more than some people's yearly salaries. He figured out that people don't just want luxury, they want the illusion of exclusivity, and he sells it better than anyone. Arnault's genius isn't just in selling products, it's in selling status. He once said, "Luxury goods are the only area in which it is possible to make luxury margins." Translation? Handbags and champagne cost pennies to make but sell for thousands, because people aren't buying leather or fabric, they're buying meaning. That's the empire. Not fashion, not wine, not jewelry, but the psychology of aspiration. And Arnault sits at the top, the quiet puppeteer of global desire. Bernard Arnault projects the image of a quiet, refined businessman, a French gentleman who lets his brands do the talking. But peel back the curtain, and you'll see a lifestyle so extravagant it makes Hollywood A-listers look like amateurs. Arnault is not just living well, he's living in a way that redefines the word opulence. Let's start with real estate. Arnault owns a sprawling mansion in Paris that resembles more of a palace than a home, with interiors dripping in priceless artwork and rare antiques. Across France, he's bought up estates that keep him firmly rooted in the old-world aristocracy. He also owns luxury properties in Beverly Hills, with one estate alone valued at over $150 million. These aren't houses. They're architectural fortresses designed to exude the very essence of luxury. Then, there's his obsession with art. Arnault is one of the top 5 private art collectors on Earth. His collection includes masterpieces from Picasso, Andy Warhol, Damien Hirst, and Monet. It's rumored to be worth billions. And unlike other collectors who keep their treasures hidden, Arnault uses his foundation Louis Vuitton in Paris to blur the line between philanthropy and branding. Every exhibit isn't just culture, it's marketing. Art becomes another jewel in the LVMH crown, feeding his empire's aura of sophistication. Now, let's move to the seas. Arnault owns the Symphony, a super yacht that stretches 333 feet and cost an estimated $150 million. Picture this: multiple decks, a helipad, a pool with a glass-bottom view, a movie theater, and enough cabins to house an entourage fit for royalty. When Arnault cruises the Mediterranean in the summer, he's not just vacationing, he's staging a moving luxury billboard. Guests sip Dom Perignon on the decks, while Dior sunglasses shield them from the sun. Even his leisure time is a commercial for his empire. Air travel? Of course, Arnault has a fleet of private jets. But here's where it gets interesting. After facing public criticism for the environmental impact of constant private jet flights, Arnault deregistered one of his planes in 2022 so people could no longer track his movements. That's not minimalism, it's secrecy. While Musk pretends to be frugal, Arnault hides his indulgence behind closed hangars. And perhaps the most telling luxury of all? Arnault is building a dynasty. Unlike Musk or Bezos, who thrive on individual cults of personality, Arnault is quietly positioning his 5 children inside LVMH brands. One runs Louis Vuitton, another oversees Dior, others work in different divisions. This isn't just a company, it's a family empire. A modern monarchy where wealth, art, and luxury are passed down like crowns. Here's the uncomfortable truth. While Arnault may not flaunt his lifestyle on Instagram, it's far more extravagant than most billionaires' wildest dreams. Mansions, art collections, yachts, jets, dynastic power plays. Arnault is living the fantasy he sells to the world. And the brilliance is that he manages to do it without looking like a show-off. He hides excess under the veil of refinement, proving that the richest luxury is not being seen, but quietly owning everything. Luxury looks dazzling on the surface. Runways in Paris, celebrities dripping in Dior, champagne toasts at Louis Vuitton parties. But the darker side of Arnault's empire is rarely discussed, and it's here where the real secrets of LVMH are exposed. The first dark secret: scarcity by design. Louis Vuitton bags don't just sell out. They're often deliberately restricted in supply to create long waiting lists and inflated demand. And here's the shocking part. Unsold products aren't discounted, they're destroyed. Perfectly good handbags, shoes, and accessories are burned or shredded every year. Why? Because Arnault knows that if luxury ever becomes too accessible, it stops being luxury. Scarcity isn't a side effect, it's the business model. People aren't buying leather, they're buying the illusion of rarity. Second, exploitation. While LVMH showcases catwalks dripping with glamour, many of its products pass through the same global supply chains as mass-market goods. Reports have surfaced over the years of factories producing parts of luxury items in countries with low labor costs, where workers are paid a fraction of what a single handbag sells for. Some Italian workshops contracted by big brands have even been caught employing immigrant labor under harsh conditions. Imagine buying a $5,000 handbag that cost under $100 to make. Most of the margin doesn't go to craftsmanship. It goes to maintaining Arnault's empire. Third, image control. Arnault doesn't just own brands, he owns narratives. LVMH pours billions into advertising every year, dominating fashion magazines, sponsoring events, and influencing media. Think about this. How often do you see a negative headline about Louis Vuitton or Dior in major fashion outlets? Almost never. Why? Because those same magazines rely on LVMH's ad money to survive. Arnault doesn't just sell luxury, he dictates what luxury means in culture. That's a level of influence even tech billionaires envy. And the final reality, inequality. Arnault built his fortune by selling exclusivity to the rich, while ordinary people line up outside Louis Vuitton stores, stretching their finances to buy a piece of the dream. Every $5,000 handbag is marketed as heritage, but really, it's a symbol of the growing divide between billionaires and everyone else. For the ultra-rich, it's an accessory. For the middle class, it's often debt. Arnault profits either way. Here's the controversial truth. Arnault's luxury empire doesn't thrive because of quality. It thrives because of psychology. He sells the fantasy that buying Dior or Louis Vuitton brings you closer to wealth, power, and status. But the reality is, it only widens the gap. Behind every glamorous runway show is a machine designed to keep luxury in the hands of a few, while making the rest of the world chase an illusion. In other words, Arnault doesn't just sell handbags or champagne. He sells dreams that most people will never actually reach. And that's the dark brilliance of his empire. So, what are Bernard Arnault's luxury secrets? that he doesn't just sell fashion, he sells psychology. That his empire isn't built on handbags and champagne. It's built on scarcity, desire, and control. That while he projects quiet sophistication, he lives in palaces, sails billion-dollar yachts, and grooms his family into a luxury dynasty. And here's the controversial truth. Arnault doesn't just own Louis Vuitton. He owns aspiration itself. He figured out that people don't want things. They want symbols. And he turned those symbols into the most profitable business on earth. Now let me ask you, do you think Arnault's empire represents art and culture, or just exploitation dressed up in designer clothes? Drop your thoughts below, because one thing is certain. Bernard Arnault doesn't just sell luxury, he is luxury.